Well, hello. Welcome to Broker Rehab. I'm Courtney Twiss, and we have my esteemed partner, Jeff Sutherlin, on here with me. Hi, Jeff. How's it going?
Better than I deserve, Courtney. Glad to be here.
I highly doubt that. I think you probably deserve the best.
It's good to
Well,
be here. We got a good topic today.
we do have a good topic today. Our topic that we're going to be talking about is building a brokerage that works without you. hmm
Uh,
I feel like that's going to resonate with a lot of people, not even just brokerage owners, but team leads as well, right?
that's right. Isn't that what we're all trying to do is get more time back for our families and build something that's, something that's sustainable? Isn't that why we do it to begin with?
I mean, we like to think so. And I think like the question we have to ask ourselves are if we went away from our brokerage or our team for 30 days, would it still continue to grow and thrive or would it stall?
Yeah. Courtney, how many times have you been on vacation and you're like at the beach and your phone doesn't stop ringing and your kids are looking at you like, Mom, can I just have some time with you? And then you have all this guilt. I mean, I don't know about you, but that's happened to me more than I would like to admit.
It has definitely happened to me. And I think anyone in our business that's happened to, I mean, realtors are notorious for always being on the phone. We have running jokes in our family, and we see some, I don't know if you've seen some of those reels going around on Instagram. They're hilarious, and there's a guy that's dressed up as the wife, that's supposedly the realtor, and she's just constantly on her phone. And of course, my husband sends it to me, my kids send it to me, my friends send it to me, and I'm like, "Okay, this is a bad sign." This is a bad sign that this is, like, our stereotype for our industry.
That's right. It is. It is. Yeah. So today we want to change that. We want to share with you guys some things that are some nuts and bolts on it. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't if you have the right systems in place and a vision for that reality.
Yep. So, I think we should just dive in, Jeff. I mean, what can we do? What can we do to get that leverage that we need to grow without actually being the person that inadvertently slows it down, right, in the funnel?
My first thought would be number one is I think it shouldn't be about your brand, your personal brand, right? I think it should be about a brand that's bigger than you, that other people can rally around. Because if you think about it, people aren't really loyal to you. They're loyal to the standards that you provide. Like when you drink a Coca-Cola, are you loyal to the taste of Coca-Cola or are you loyal to the president of Coca-Cola? You are loyal. Yeah, right. You're loyal to the taste, right? So from the get-go, as an owner, I would think you need to start developing systems and processes so the standards of care that you provide for the client is so good, it wouldn't matter what your company name was. They're going to follow you because of what you're providing.
Mhm. So how do you do that? Good question.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, first of all, I think you got to write down your vision, right? And your goals. What do you want the exit to be? I don't think people think that they don't think about that. They don't think of the end game. In fact, I think some people think it's a bad thing to think, well, I might sell this company in 5 to 10 years.
Mhm.
Well, what are the other choices? You either die with the company or you sell it. It's not a bad thing to want to sell a company in the future. So if that's the end goal, then start putting systems in place to meet that goal.
Well, and I mean, you have to build a business where it's not reliant on you. Your business cannot be your brand, to your point. Otherwise, there is no value in that business and nobody will want to buy it because as soon as you leave, your clients disappear, your database disappears. So that's a really good point. And I think along those same lines with the systems, I actually wrote down a few notes. In my mind, there's a few different buckets that you have for your systems. And one would be your onboarding, right? Obviously, first step. Two would be the training, accountability. Three would be operations and compliance. Four is the culture and communication. And then I believe five would be growth, attraction, recruiting. And maybe if you are not really a systems person, you can just kind of start with that outline and start plugging in some of the tasks that either you do. Actually, what if you have any help, right? What do you do? What does your admin do? Or where are some voids where you need some help or where you can delegate to your team to offload off of your plate?
Yeah, exactly. SOPs, right? an operational manual. It's like when I started my brokerage back in Chandler, Arizona in 2009, the very first day we started writing our operational manual because if something happened to the principles of the company, you want the company to be able to be sustainable.
Mm.
So personalities are not duplicatable, but systems are. So an SOP to me is very, very important in any business.
For sure. Is there anything that I missed in my little buckets that you think would be important for a broker or team lead?
Yeah, I think one of them, I don't think you mentioned this one, but I think good reporting, right?
Mm.
Good reporting, right? Good reporting, internal reporting, so your leaders can look at the real metrics because a lot of people don't run their business presidentially with numbers. They don't know their numbers, right? So if you don't know your numbers, you're just kind of like this ship without a compass.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important that you know what the goal is constantly and you're all moving towards that goal. And then you also need to have people around you that believe in your vision. They believe in where you're trying to go because eventually you're going to hand this off to somebody else. And are those people properly yoked with you? Do they have the same values that you do? That's really important to do. And I think sometimes you find that out over the years, right? Because the people you start with are not always the people you end with.
For sure. That's definitely true. And I think when you're talking about the metrics or even actually any of these systems, if it's just in your head, then it's not a system. It's a total liability. And there's a lot of us that have a lot of stuff in our head that we haven't written down or measured.
Yeah, totally. It's in our head and we don't share it. And quite honestly, a lot of people, they just don't think anybody can do it better. They don't. They're a control freak, and if you're a control freak in this business, it's gonna be a tough road because you can't be all things to everybody. And you have to start thinking about there are people out there that can do this job better than me. And so I think you have to bury your ego and say, okay, what are my weaknesses? And let's start hiring to those weaknesses.
And like you could do the quadrants, right? And I know I'm not going to get this exactly right, but remember Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? With the money, maybe you know this better than I do, but essentially, like lining up what are you good at and enjoy, what do you not enjoy, or what are you not good at, and kind of tracking all of those to figure out what maybe you can offload or
Yeah,
keep.
totally. Right. Yeah. Like what did you love doing the most when you ran your brokerage, Courtney?
Well, I have always and continue to love all the marketing and branding side of the business. I have a very creative side.
Yes, you do.
One of the things I liked about real estate is that I mean, that's my degrees in marketing. That's something I've been able to use for my entire career as a realtor, broker, team lead, you name it. So that's an area that I really loved. Then for me, just like we've talked about the numbers, I do like spreadsheets because it's like magic and there's a bit of a creativity to that of just spitting out exactly what you need to know. However, like the number side of it was tough for me. I needed to get help in that area, and I ended up hiring CFO because I was not holding myself accountable very well.
Yeah, that was smart. A lot of people would have kept on doing what they were doing, and it's just you're not really gonna get the kind of success you want. So that was good. And I would imagine when you first hired that CFO, was that difficult for you to make that hire, or
I mean,
so?
yeah, it was a big investment. Whenever you have to invest in your infrastructure, which is also sometimes people, it's a bit scary. Like, how are you going to get the ROI off of that hire, whether it's an admin in your office, an assistant, or in my case, it's actually a fractional CFO. And I do want to say that because there's a lot of fractional positions available out there now remotely that help bring that cost down because you're sharing it with other entrepreneurs. And for me, it was well worth every dollar to have him. He actually kind of coached me as well, which was unusual for someone in that capacity to be a numbers person and a coach. But it was really helpful.
Well, you just opened my eyes to that idea. I haven't heard that term in a while. A fractional CFO. That's a great idea, right? Because you're spending a fraction of the money to get somebody with all the skill sets of a CFO. That's powerful.
I mean, if you think about it, we do that all the time with a lot of different positions, right? How many people get help with social media? We're basically hiring a fractional marketing department. because the cost is lower because they're working in less of a capacity for multiple businesses. And it's kind of a win-win. They get to make a full-time job living, and we get the benefits of them without having to pay for a full-time employee. So there's a lot of positions that you can outsource in a fractional capacity.
That's great stuff. Another thing I think about, Courtney, is leadership development. And, when you're a leader of an organization, one of the first things really we should be thinking about is who is our replacement?
Mhm.
And I know it's kind of weird to think that, but who are you apprenticing right now? As a leader, we should always be apprenticing other people. Like even in our business, Courtney, what we do, we're constantly trying to bring people up to another level because that ultimately spells freedom for us, but also it's joyful. I mean, you get to help somebody grow and produce for their family. So in my business, I've identified 5 key people, to help duplicate and teach them everything I have, pour into them, give them everything I have, and then in the hopes that that'll duplicate, and keep on moving that forward. So
Right.
leadership development, right? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. I'm curious, like with your 5 people that you've identified, do they know they've been identified or you've told them?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I've told them I consider them to be a general in the organization.
Mm.
And I told him I have a 5-year plan, and which I do. I have a 5-year plan. At 55, when I'm 60, I'm going to be doing it a little bit less, doing it, where I'm sitting in the seat every day and, making calls because I enjoy what I do to this day. I'm not going to give it up because I just believe if I retire, I'm not really going to retire, but that's a whole other point because I enjoy what I do. But my point is in the next 5 years, I have a plan, right? And I've discussed this with these people, and I
Mhm.
and I've been telling them, what does that look like? So over the next 5 years, I'm going to give them everything I have, and and then we'll see where we're at. Hopefully, if I do that at a high level and they're coachable and they want the same things that I want, it's going to be a great plan. And it's taken me a while to find those people.
Mm.
It just doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you got to kiss some frogs along the way. You know what I'm saying?
I do, right? Don't they say most problems are people problems? I found that to be true. It's true, right? When you're building a business.
Yeah, absolutely. We've touched on different things, right? So you're talking about vision, goals, documenting your process.
Mhm.
Um, you have a CRM, like, like a database with all your clientele. That's pretty important. Something that can be passed on. Um, tech. I mean, you're the pro at tech. So like, is the company ahead of the competition instead of behind? Like right now, Courtney, I look up to you because you're such an AI expert, and I love learning from you with all the different things you're doing. So you're always keeping your business way in front of the competition. So, what are we doing in that space?
Well, and it keeps changing. I mean, my goodness, is with the AI, it's like improving exponentially every single week. I feel like I'm using one platform right now, building out some websites for my organization, for my coaching, and it is literally improving every time I go on there. There's new features that I can take advantage of. So it's pretty cool what's out there. You don't even have any idea how many tools are out there that can make your life easier. And I've made it my goal this year to really embrace that and to be a student of AI. That way I can, like you said, sorry, skate before, what is it? Skate before the puck. I forget.
Right.
Tom Dave
Mhm.
called them.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah, and, there's just so many things that you can try, but with that, I am saying that I'm checking my subscriptions every month and making sure that I'm still utilizing them and that it's not something that I tried that wasn't really what I needed.
yeah, you can get like cost creep, with all the different things that are out there. Um,
Yes.
and you'd be proud of me, Courtney. I'm actually recording this session right now, and I'm going to transcribe that into a podcast
Mm.
using Notebook LM, which I learned last week.
Yes, Notebook LM, very handy, I use it quite a bit.
Try to keep up with you.
Right?
Try to keep up. So, I think, hiring a replacement is a big deal, and thinking about who that is a big deal. And then making sure that that person's in culture with what you wanted this company to be to begin with.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes people that own companies, the culture goes a different direction, and that makes them feel uncomfortable that it's a little bit different from what they started it to be. Maybe it's better, maybe it's worse, but you talk about that because you had a very strong culture, and you do to this day. Your culture is magnificent within your organization.
Mhm.
How important is that?
It's critical. And it's okay for it to change. So I think I want to say it was maybe 2019 where I drafted, and I say I on purpose, I drafted our first mission statement and our core values with the help of a coach. However, I did not do it with the help of my team. So getting the buy-in of those is a little more difficult than if I were to have just included them in the process and said, "Hey, here's what I'm seeing. What are you seeing? Here's what I'm thinking the direction of our company should be. What are your guys' thoughts?" Because they might see it a different way. And if they don't agree with what you've come up with, you're definitely not going to get the buy-in from them. And then you're not going to be consistent with what you're presenting to the public. So I would say if you can include at least your leaders in your team, on your group, in that process, it's really helpful. And it's okay to change it down the road because with growth, sometimes things change. Maybe you're gonna niche down and focus on one area rather than a more broad one, and all of a sudden your mission is not really relevant, right? So I think you just have to like give yourself permission to change with the market or with your team or whatever it might be would require that.
So true. I had this kind of philosophy that if I was going to make a big change in the brokerage, because when my brokerage got to 250 people, it got to be pretty large. I had these groups of like lifeboats, people that I trusted, maybe about three or four small groups, and I would go to them and I'd float these ideas out to them.
Yeah.
I beta test these ideas, right? Because I literally love collaboration, and that was helpful because if the influencers are on board and it becomes their idea,
Mhm.
that's pretty amazing, right? That'll go through the brokerage amazingly well. But if you just try to force something down on an organization that's a bunch of 1099 people by using authoritative leadership, which you find in the corporate world, it doesn't work.
It does not work because every single one of them are growing their own businesses too. So how do you get cohesion, like you said, with 1099s, where you're growing your brokerage, but your agents are really to speak frankly, they're more worried about their own business and their own brand than they are about your brokerage. So it's a fine line between treating them like an employee, which is in a lot of states like California where I'm at, that's illegal. You can't do that. With them inspiring and influencing them to want to, I don't want to say be like you, but kind of to be like you and to embrace what you're offering them and the standards that you have provided in your company. It's a tricky one. It's hard, I think, for a lot of people to do.
Definitely. And if you really think about it, isn't this one of the major reasons we're at the brokerage we're at now? Is we want to actually build something and not have to be an expert in everything and be able to depend on a company to provide a platform with all these systems and services so we can focus on what's really important, which is the people.
Right, right. Yep, definitely. It's definitely made it a little easier and taken away some of the back end uh things that I really didn't enjoy doing that I now don't have to when we have, 5 to 8 brokers on duty in each state to help answer questions, when we have 80 hours of training a week, and we have all these free on demand courses for AI or generating income. It's pretty amazing that it doesn't all have to fall on you. And then you can just focus on your own personal growth and the growth of your leaders and bringing on other agents that want to grow with you.
Yeah, and I just had something come to my mind as well, Courtney. I forgot to mention, and that is that when you're the leader of the business, do you have a coach? Right? A lot of these people become brokerage owners, and they used to be coached when they were an agent, and all of a sudden they get to this brokerage owner place, and they're like, they're not getting coached. I wonder why that is. I mean, if anybody needs a coach at that point, It's it's the boss.
Right. Right. Yeah, I don't know if it's an ego thing, possibly. I actually didn't get coaching until I was a broker, and didn't have it as an agent, but it could be that just being that they're having to be the one that knows, quote unquote, knows everything amongst their group, that they might not feel that they have growth needed for themselves personally. Or it also could potentially be a financial constraint going on, depending on how the market is. Last few years hasn't been super ideal for independent brokers and team leads with the margins. So I don't know if that might be a factor that plays into it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I own a coaching company called Growth Yard Coaching, and we actually have a coach, and he worked with Tony Robbins. And so this guy is at such a high level and understands how to properly build a coaching company. And I can't even imagine not having that guy. So, and when you have a coach like that, or when you have the key players in your brokerage, people that you might want to give this to at some point, I think there needs to be financial incentives, right? Because let's be real. I mean, people, if they're going to take something over of that magnitude, it has to be worth it for them financially. So
Right.
there's things you can do to incentivize them and give them uh, partial ownership. You could have ownership build up over time. You could have a sliding scale. You could give them revenue sharing. You have to start thinking about, how do I think with the end in mind now? And if you have the right person sitting right in front of you right now that is the successor to you, why not start having that conversation earlier than later? You know?
For sure. It would definitely make the your exit strategy go much smoother. Most people don't think about an exit strategy until they're already ready to exit. And that means they already have one foot out the door mentally. So that's the worst thing that you can do. And I've seen it not just in real estate, but in other, I was part of Vistage, which is a CEO group, all different industries, same problems. And much of my group was older and wanting to retire. And they're like, okay, how do I do it? Who's going to be my person? Who do I sell? Is it my kid? Is it one of my managers? And it's a really big process to go through and it takes it should take years. But most people, or at least that I've seen, don't put thought in it till it's already there in front of them.
I guess we all just think we're gonna live forever, right? And we're not gonna have any end game. So yeah, it's pretty bizarre.
I have never been to a realtor's retirement party, so I don't know. It's a
Me
problem.
neither. It is a problem. Well, good. So we've covered a lot today. We've talked about goals, processes, technology, culture, which is something we love.
Yep.
Um, you know, good reporting, probably an advisory council or at least a coach, one of those two, to look over your numbers. Accountability on a monthly basis, I think, is important, or else you're just kind of floating out there saying you have some sort of system around that too. So
Right.
we've covered quite a bit.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just like looking through some of my notes, um, I think a lot of this comes back down obviously to the systems. We've talked about that a lot, but then what you had mentioned earlier on with letting go of some of the control, which is hard to do for entrepreneurs, and just recognizing that you just need to let go of some of the emotional side of it, without stepping away strategically, but just let some of the emotions go away because often that's what keeps you from delegating is that side of the business, and stop rescuing everybody, right? Stop rescuing them. You just need to start observing patterns and identifying ways that you can empower your people so that they can make decisions without having to check with you on everything.
That's pretty cool right there. I mean, I've always believed you push decision making down to the lowest competent level in the organization.
Mm.
Right. And there's a lot of organizations, especially in churches, right? I know this because being a bivocational pastor, there's a lot of times in a church where everything floats up to the priest or the pastor, right? They make all the decisions. And those are organizations that don't always grow because there's no leadership development. It has to be a part of your culture to give things up to people, and actually, Courtney, to allow them to fail sometimes.
Mhm.
There's certain things that if somebody fails, it's not going to be catastrophic. There's going to be learning. And there's other things, yeah, you're not going to give something to somebody where they're going to completely mess something up.
Right.
irrecoverable. But I mean, you want to push that decision making down so people feel empowered. To me, that's the same thing we're doing at eXp Realty every day. We're building leaders every single day as deep as we can in our organizations.
For sure. It's kind of like parenting.
Yeah, kind of.
Parents out there.
Yes, it is.
Ah.
Oh,
Well, I think we've covered some really good things today. Hopefully, our listeners have found it helpful. And I think we should wrap this up with our broker recharge room, right? Pastor Jeff, can you see this in some
lead us-
wisdom to help us recharge our batteries?
I thought you were going to say lead us in prayer. I would have done that too, but anyway.
I'm game.
But so here's the thing, Courtney. This is what I have on my heart today.
Okay.
I thought about the law of reciprocity, right?
Mm,
The law of reciprocity, meaning that what Zig Ziglar said, if you help enough other people get what they want, you'll get what you want, right? So if you're burned out as a broker or you want to just get recharged, lean back into that law. That means that do something for somebody every day without expecting anything in return.
mm.
And I'm telling you, that will give you so much joy in your heart because we're so accustomed to doing things. We talk about ROI all the time, return on my time, return on my investment. What if you don't always expect a return and you just give because it feels great and you want to pour into somebody? So I recommitted to that like 2 weeks ago. I was like, I'm going to give 4 people a day. That's my number. It's right on my whiteboard. 4 people a day, something that will make a difference in their life. Maybe they're struggling with something and I just need to reach out with them and tell them I love them and I want to help them. I don't care about real estate. There's nothing attached to this. Just do it because you want to and watch how your heart changes. And basically what will happen is your business will grow because I do believe in this stuff that the universe, God, whatever you believe, it will return these things. Maybe not directly from them. It might be some other way, but it just gives you more joy. So if you're burned out, think about people that need you, that need your help and expect nothing in return.
I love that. Living the life of abundance, right?
Yep.
I think that's great, Jeff.
Yeah.
Well, I think that concludes today's episode. And I hope that everyone can go out there and do exactly what Jeff is telling you and just give without expecting anything in return, and it will come back to you. And follow us on our YouTube channels. All Things Twiss, Jeff Sutherlin Show. We're hoping to perhaps launch our own broker rehab page here pretty soon as well. Or you can find us on Instagram under those same handles. So have a good one. Bye.
Bye bye.